This is Expose UX, where startup founders seek help from user experience experts.
When I saw that first screen, it didn't jump out to me really until you started explaining it.
So it might be a little confusing as to what I can click on and what I can't.
For the sake of their users, these founders place their egos aside.
I don't think you've done your homework.
I'm completely confused.
Whether wireframes are fully launched, the experts help them advance their products. I'm your host, Richard Brevik. When I released my product, RivalSeek, over 30% of users were confused by it. I understood why, but didn't know how to fix it. That's when I turned to the experts, and now you can too. Let's meet them.
Chelsea Maxwell is a senior UX designer for Project 202. James Helms is the director of experience design for Intuit. And Jeremy Johnson is the vice president of customer experience for Project 202. Special thanks to the User Experience Professionals Association, Dallas Chapter. And also to Big Design Conference, September 8th through 10th, 2016 in Dallas, Texas. Filmed on location in the co-working space Fort Work in the Alto 211 building.
Welcome, Mike, to Expose UX. Could you please provide us some background on your company?
Sure. My name is Mike Muni. I'm the CEO and co-founder of VIP Orbit Software Company. Our product, Viper, VIPOR, is the best way to manage all of your contacts, calendars, communications in one solution for both your entire network of business and personal contacts in your networks.
Great. Could you walk us through your product?
Sure. So let me just give you a little bit of background to set the foundation. The products are native to the device, and the data resides on the device. Having said that, there is an automatic backup that occurs, so if your devices were lost or stolen, you're totally safe. You would be able to restore your entire database, but there's no dependency on the web. It also real-time syncs, depending on broadband, but it typically is real-time syncs. Whatever I put on one device will sync to the other devices. So the way we do it on the iPhone, which is a smaller screen footprint, of course, here is the today of those same activities, and I can scroll through them, and I can either touch this bracket right here. I'll use the pointer right now. If I tapped on the bracket, it would show me who that activity is with, as you can see already in the second column, which is also displayed all three at the same time on the iPad as well. Or I can go to the contacts and tap contacts, and here are those people, and here's the locations as you see on the Mac. So I just wanted you to see that the function and the way that it's designed is very similar, very intuitive across all different Apple devices. Now, let's concentrate only on the phone. So you see here that I have as the meeting, the Expose US filming scheduled. Well, let's say I haven't gotten here yet, so I'm going to tap the bracket. Who is that with? Here are the four of you. And if I want to refresh my memory before I come into the meeting with each of you, what do I already know about Chelsea? What do I have historically documented that was automatically archived, most recent through the oldest? And I can even filter just to see past meetings alone, past calls, past emails. And I can tap the bracket right here to go to screen 2 and see what personal information I have on Chelsea that I've accumulated over time, because this is about a product that helps me remember everything I've learned about people so that I'm distinctive from everybody else. To you, you're impressed, hopefully, that I have remembered all those little details about you for better relationship management, but a distinction across people you are comparing me to, perhaps competitors, right? So Chelsea, here's what I know about you, and I've linked you to everybody that I already know that you know. So I know your mini network across my entire database of everybody that I have in it, which is 1,200 people. If I want to then go to Richard and do the same thing, so Richard and I did meet a couple weeks ago at the Startup Grind event, and there you see in his log file, Startup Grind meeting, and I'm going to tap the bracket. Here's where it was held. And we had a brief chat, and he mentioned he was familiar with ACT. So it was a note that I took, and I remembered that. So that's what a profile is, but let's go to an orbit. What is an orbit? An orbit can be anything you want. Let's go through just a few of them. And I have it in my custom sequence, but I can also alphabetize them. And I'm going to go to the custom, and here is Expose UX. I already created this orbit, and there are the 4 of you. Now, if I wanted to send a text to each of you, but whereby you got it individually, even though I did one text effort that went to all 4 of you and simultaneously automatically archived in each of your records that I sent that text, all I have to do is tap the text button and speak or type the text. Done.
So I love these types of apps, right? And I know it's starting to be a bit of a crowded space. There are other apps playing in parts of this. You mentioned with LinkedIn copy and pasting, how automated is the process, and what platforms are you building on? Like, is this with Outlook, with Gmail, or, right? Like how are you grafting onto things I already use, and then how much of this is automation?
Yeah, good question. So right now we use Apple Mail as the mail transport mechanism. And of course in my own Apple Mail, I link both Gmail and Yahoo Mail, my personal account, to it. We do not link to Outlook per se just yet. This is a single user version right now. In just a couple months, this is going multi-user.
And then for the automation, which parts are you automating? So are you grafting on to social networks and pulling that information in, or is that a manual process?
As far as social media, we do not link to any per se right now.
Or even LinkedIn, or?
LinkedIn won't allow you to unless you become a strategic partner, of which there's only 2 right now, Salesforce and Microsoft CRM.
So I want to say your UI and the purpose of your product are all pretty strong. What isn't is your brand. Like, you keep saying Viper, and I have no idea how to spell that because I haven't seen it at all in the UI. Like, is there 2 R's, no E? Like, I have no idea. And if I keep saying the word Orbit, so I'd be like, maybe this app is called Orbit, who knows? If I wanted to tell someone else to get on this and use this, I would have no idea like what to tell them.
Yeah, that's a good point, Chelsea, and I appreciate it. I don't know if you're familiar with it, with Apple themselves and their app development agreement, but they basically disallow and disapprove of branding of your name in your product.
So that's not, so they have guidelines,
They do
right?
have guidelines,
but
right.
Any app worth their, right, like break those guidelines. And that's a good point. I mean, it's very clean, very modern, although I do feel like you're mixing patterns from, like, I've seen on like Windows Metro kind of patterns with some Apple patterns, like the underline kind of moving across the top. I don't know that I've seen that in Apple's guidelines, but again, I mean, really, Apple only cares about you doing things well, and if you do it well, they don't really care, right? And so you could imbue some of your brand onto this app, right? So that when you squint, oh, that's a Viper experience, right?
And that's what we're lacking right now.
Yeah. No, I appreciate that. So let me ask you, if you don't mind, where with the small footprint, most primarily on the phone, it's easy on the iPad and Mac, where would you put that?
Here's an idea. It doesn't necessarily need to take up permanent real estate. That may be a temporal thing that is a branded moment that's part of the process of capturing information or passing information along some sort of like a loading moment or something where you could actually have your logo where it's not a logo necessarily even, but there's great things that you can do where temporally you can claim a great, I think there's a good one with Flickr does one where when you pull down and load, it does a little with the 2 circles. So there's all kinds of things that you can do like that can help seed the idea that this is a brand and not just a really, what I think is a really compelling tool. The one thing that I wanted to, I don't know, would you mind pulling the...
So there's Viper at the bottom, and I've got 6 things to do today. I wanted to show you the boot up. There's the screen. That's where I could put Viper.
If you could put your name
that
there,
would be,
that
and
would
also
be,
like if that had just a little bit of,
Why isn't it called Orbit?
That's what I thought it was called.
And then,
Okay, no, that's a good question. When I started the company 5 years ago, there was a product on the market called Orbit. And so I could not claim that or name that.
Fair enough.
So I named it VIP Orbit, and the original Orbit company went out of business about 4 years ago. But we had already branded the company, VIP Orbit, et cetera, et cetera.
the other thing that I notice here is a little bit of icon overload. We've got, kind of what kind of a meeting, and is this a, one person, several people, locations, a lot of, it's a little much. I mean, what's interesting is this is a very clean app concept in terms of visual design, but there still manages to be enough sort of visual, I don't want to totally beat it up with overload, but there's cognitive load that goes along with having to process every single icon on that screen. Mm-hmm. And I think what you're aiming for here is something that makes that simpler, mm-hmm. and inadvertently you're making it more complicated. And a lot of times this happens with app design, especially on small real estate like a phone. Every one of those elements is kind of like, could I live without it? Could I live without it? Could I live without it? Because you're trying to reduce to, these moments on a phone are 1, 3, 5 seconds, right? Like every time I have to process an extra pixel, it slows me down, and it makes it feel slower than it really is.
I think what you've got here is really strong so far. I think with some minor refinements, so just narrowing down how many icons you do show, and then with definitely like pushing the brand of your app itself, it would definitely be a contender.
Well, thank you very much. I appreciate that.
Yeah, I agree. It's definitely heading in the right direction. I think broadening how you can integrate with other systems, I think will help it expand. Like I could see teams of people using this. It sounds like today it would be maybe a little difficult depending on what ecosystem that they're in with their organization. But yeah, I mean, it's heading in the right direction. More automation and being able to expand, right, with partnering with other products, right?
I think that there's so much richness to your feature set. I think that it really comes down to pick the 3 things that you want to do really well here and remove having to dig to get into those things. Have them come to me so that you just had a meeting with Jeremy, give it a rating 1 to 5, boom, and it's gone. So how can you start to simplify the 3 or 4 things that I'm going to do every day to make them as effortless and frictionless as possible?
Mm-hmm. Okay, I appreciate it.
Well, thank you for coming. I hope that the feedback has been helpful.
Thank you very much.